pastoring a church where the teenagers lay all over each other like a bunch of dogs in heat, fondling each other while I'm trying to preach the word of God in this pulpit. Your kid ain't doing it, and your kid ain't doing it. I have instructed my security staff to pick you up by the seat of the britches and throw your wicked tail out of here. You're not going to play with your cell phone. You're not going to lollygag around. You're not going to talk. Hey, Justice. Hey, Justice, look up here. Hey, Justice. Hey, Justice, look up here while I'm preaching, son. Yeah, I'm preaching to all that crowd back there, and you included. You ought to have your eyes on your preacher while the man of God's preaching. You shouldn't be falling around. Now, I'm telling you, I ain't putting up with it. I come here to go to church. I ain't a referee. I ain't fooling around with a bunch of people laughing and giggling when I spend 40 hours a week trying to prepare my preaching. And you parents sit there and act dumb and stupid and let your kids act like a bunch of idiots. I'm going to tell you why our kids are messed up. You're enabling them to mess up. And if you don't think I won't call yours down, you don't know me very well. All I'm asking you to do is to shut up for 30 minutes and let me try to put some Bible in you that'll save you from being shipwrecked down the road. Because you may laugh now, but you won't be laughing later on. I can't help what your kids do elsewhere. It's none of my business. But I can tell you what's not happening on these church grounds. And that includes you, and you, and you, and you. You're going to respect this place, or we're going to make you leave this place. Now, if you want to go down here to some fang-dangled mess where the youth leader looks like he needs spray dipped and wormed, and they got 9 different translations of the Bible, and nobody has enough guts to preach, then that's where you need to go. But as long as you come in here, I'm going to tell you exactly what the Bible says.
Yo, I want to be mad at this man, but I can't. I can't be mad at him. It's his church. He's the leader of that church, and he sets the rules for his church. Now, I don't agree with him on many levels, but it is his church. So if the people want to sit there and take this type of abuse from him, then they are more than welcome to. I know that if I was going to that church and my children were on their iPads or on their Androids or whatever, and some dude try to grab them by the seat of their pants and kick them out, that dude gonna get grabbed by his throat and get kicked out because you're not touching my children. But, that's his rules. That's the way he want to run his church. And if those people submit to that, that's on them. That just shows how much the brainwashing can go, that a pastor can sit up there and berate the people like that. And then, you know, those parents are going to start fussing at their children and making their children stay off their phones and pay attention. But let's be real, people. 90% of teenagers and younger who go to church are there because they're being forced to go there by their parents. They didn't want to be there. And many of the parents give their children their phones, pads. I remember we used to get books or different things like that because our parents knew we were not interested in what that man was saying, did not understand 90% of what that man was saying. So we were bored out of our minds. So our parents gave us things in order to keep us occupied until we got of an age where we actually started paying attention to what they were saying. Now, I was different. 9 years old, I started paying attention to what that pastor was saying. And then I started questioning what that pastor was saying. Most kids at 9 are not doing that. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, they're not doing that. They're not paying attention. This is one of the reasons why, and there are some pastors that I love. I love Reverend Dillon. When I was 15 and I started going to church under Reverend Dillon, I love Reverend Dillon because he had a heart for teenagers. And he knew that we were bored. He knew that we didn't care about what he was standing in that pulpit talking about. So he made other activities for us to still do Bible teachings that were entertaining for us, separate from the adults, because we just weren't interested. And he knew that and recognized that. And instead of trying to force us to sit up there like little captives, he figured out a different way to try to reach teenagers. And that's where that man is lacking. He is lacking in understanding that his Jesus would go to the prostitutes. He would go to where the lower caste people were, the fishermen, the unintelligent, the pig farmers. He would go to those people in whatever their situation was and meet them at their level instead of trying to force people to meet him at his level. This pastor has obviously forgotten about those teachings and have forgotten about the bracelets when they used to wear the "What Would Jesus Do?" Instead, he's a totalitarian dictator over his church. And if people want to follow that, they are more than welcome to do so. It is not something I would ever subject my children to. Because when I did have my children going to church, they had children's church that they went to. And they did Bible puzzles and stories in a framework that they can understand it. But of course, I taught them other things as well. But the point of this one is this man is just irate and this man is just mad. And now if you got kids laying on top of each other, fondling each other, then yeah, I mean, that's inappropriate no matter where you are. You know, yeah, handle that. But a kid on his iPhone, he's not interested. Why don't you make it interesting for the kid? Make it interesting for the kid. But this is why so many churches have went that way. And there's the big pageantries and shows and things of that nature. Because they know people have short attention spans. So you got to entertain the people. That type of message is not going to go over well with the teenagers. They're looking at you like, man, we don't care about what you're saying. They're more afraid of their parents over there. But I will say he's right. The problem with kids is that their parents are enablers. Are they enabling them while they're in the church? I don't know about that part. But many parents do enable their children to have bad behavior. Ignore the discipline that their children actually need. Ignore the basic rules of being able to live in society that their children need. Allow their children to say what they want to say, do what they want to do, slap the parents, cuss out the parents, all these different things. These children are being enabled by their parents and they're growing up without discipline. And so discipline is needed back in our society, but not in the way that this guy is saying it. He don't care what you do outside the church, but inside the church. And maybe that's what he's trying to get across to those parents, that you got to rule over them as dictators in the church, and so you can rule over them as dictators outside the church. To hell with actual good parenting. Let's not do any of that. Let's come at them and yelling and screaming and demanding and picking them up and throwing them out. If anything, I thought you're supposed to be about saving souls, my guy. But obviously you're not. I thought you're supposed to be about teaching them in the way that they would go so that when they grow older, they will not depart. But evidently not. You want them to conform to however society is today in church and then remain and be the exact same way so that you can lord over them later on in life and get their money. Sounds like some good pre-brainwashing in order to keep them affiliated with you so you can maintain your status. But for all those parents who sat there and listened to that and took it and then abide by it, let's call children's services. But y'all have a great day. And remember always, you got to free yourself to be yourself. Because your greatness... No, hold on. Let me add one more thing here. There's a book called The 1 Minute Manager. This book called The 1 Minute Manager is how I raise my kids and how I deal with people, period. And this is what this man should have done. This man should have criticized uplift the children, criticize the behavior, and then reaffirm the children. That is how you actually become a good leader, become a good parent, become a good friend, become a good manager, become a good person, period, when it comes to you having to lead people. Is that it is a constant uplifting of the person, criticizing the behavior, reaffirm the person. That's what he should have done. So now I will say, always remember that you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.